Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. You may remember that a month or so ago I did a video where I talked about an application called Aperty. Aperty is an app that will be coming out later this fall from Skylum Software. If you are an event photographer, wedding photographer, engagement photographer, graduation photographer, a portrait photographer, or any type of photographer that takes pictures of people, you may want to take a look at Aperty, because with Aperty, you could edit the entire image, but it has some tools in it that will help you do a high-end portrait edit as well. Now, I did mention that a month or so ago, I did a video where I talked about Aperty. That's because I did not yet have a copy of it. Well, I'm happy to say that I now have a beta version of Aperty. So in today's video, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of Aperty and what you can do with it. Now, I do want to remind you, this is a beta version, so it may be cosmetically different when it is released, and I believe it's coming out sometime in November. Now, as you can see, I do have it open, and it works with kind of a project basis, which works well if you are some type of event photographer. Maybe you did a graduation, let's say, and you have a folder of all those images. So that's your event, that's your project. Maybe you did a wedding, and you have a folder with all the wedding photos, and the folder's name is the name of the couple. That's your project, that's your event. Well, what you could do is take all those images off your memory card, put them on your computer somewhere, open up Aperty as I do now, and create your project. Now, recently I did a photo shoot with a model, Courtney. So I'm going to put her name as the project, and I'm going to click Create Project. Now, once you do that, you have the project created. You just have to load the images into the project. So it's prompting you now to either drag a folder of images here or individual images here, or just click on it. And you can navigate to where they are. You can see I have a folder called Courtney right here. I'll click Open. And when you do that, it will populate your project with all the images from that photo shoot. And you can see they're all right here. Now, you can see at the bottom we have a film strip. So you can go through each of the images and try to find one you like. I'm just going to make this really easy, in that I'm going to pick this one, I think, because her teeth are showing here. Or maybe not that one. This one's a little better, yeah. So I'm going to pick this one because her teeth are showing here, and obviously want to whiten her teeth. And this one's going to be a little more difficult to edit than some of the other ones because it was a really tough lighting situation. You can see that it was strongly backlit, so I have it really bright in the background. So I need to kind of balance the exposure. So the focus is on Courtney, but everything else kind of just contributes to the model and doesn't really distract or detract from the model. So I mentioned, though, that it is a complete editor. So you can look over on the right and you can see you have these different panels, and by default you'll be in the Essentials panel, and it has a develop, because this is a raw file, it would be develop raw. And if you're familiar with Luminar Neo, this is very similar, right? So you could come in, you could have choose your camera profile, just stay with the Aperty default. You could fix your white balance. Then it has this tone section where you could edit the light. And in this case, that background is kind of blown out. And if you'd like to see the clipping indicators, tap the J key. And when you tap the J key, you'll get red where you're blowing out the highlights and blue where you're crushing the shadows. You can see there's a lot of red here. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of the red, or at least most of it. So I'm going to bring highlights all the way down, and then I'm going to bring that down a little bit. I still have a tiny bit of red. That's okay. I got rid of that too. So we'll open up shadows. All right. Now I'm going to get a white point. I'm going to click on the white slider. Now I still have clipping indicators on. I tap that J key, remember? So if I go too far, I'll start to see red again. I'm just going to back it off. I don't mind a little red up here. I'll probably put a vignette on it anyway, so it's going to take care of that. And then for the black slider, same thing. I still have those clipping indicators on. If I start moving too far, you'll see the blue. That means I'm crushing the shadows. So we don't want to make it too dark. Now, as it is now, our model is too dark, really, for what I want. But when I get to the portrait editing part, I could brighten her up and make it look like she is more balanced in the scene. So I like it just like that. Now that's pretty much all I'm going to do here, but you'll notice that there is a curves adjustment. So if you want to do any curves adjustment, you could color here. If I wanted to increase vibrance, saturation, if I wanted to do anything with HSL, that's in this color section as well. Below that, if I want to create a black and white image, I could do that here, convert it, and it has a black and white mix, so I can move the sliders to affect the tones in the black and white image. Sharpening, not doing anything with that. This is the details. If you're familiar, again, with Luminar Neo, these same controls are there, structure and noise reduction. Now, this was shot, I think, at ISO 64. I don't need to worry about that. I really want to jump right to the portrait editing tools. But look up here, I still have a little red there, so I still have the clipping indicators on. So remember to tap that J key to turn those off. So I'm done with this panel. This is the Essentials panel. I want to go to this panel next. The one directly below it is the Retouch panel. And you'll notice with the Retouch panel, it has skin smoothing, and then it has this eyes, mouth, makeup, body, skin. But let's just, do this as we normally would. What I typically do is I'll just go from top to bottom. This is pretty much the order I would do things. Sometimes I would do like brighten teeth before I do eyes, but that's all right. I could just go in this order. Now let's get rid of the blemishes. We're going to go to blemish removal. It goes from 0 to 100. I'm just going to put it right in the middle. Now it will take a second to kick in. What it does, it creates a map of the person's face. So it finds where their eyes are, their lips are, their teeth are, their nose is, and, stuff like that. So this, usually the first couple adjustments might take a while. You can see at the bottom here, it's saying applying skin, and this is the beta version. I anticipate the actual release in November will go a lot faster. You could see that it just took away most of the blemishes, and I want it natural. That's typically how I edit. Is I don't, I'm not editing for like, an ad in a men's magazine like GQ or anything like that, or Sports Illustrated. I'm editing for the customer, so I don't want to really make them look like they don't actually look. So that is one slider I moved, and if you want to get a before after, you could hold in the backslash key. There's before, and there's after. There's before, and there's after. Now, if you want to smooth skin a little bit, you could go to this slider. And again, I'll just move that right in the middle just to give you an idea of how powerful things are. If you want to get rid of freckles, you can move this one. She doesn't really have any freckles. If, for any reason, when you move blemish removal to the right, if you had to move it pretty far because you want to get rid of a lot of blemishes, but it's like making the skin too smooth, if you move this detail slider to the right, you'll bring back some of the pores that might have got smoothed over. And if you move it to left, you'll smooth them over even more. So I'm just going to leave it, I'm going to leave it right in the middle. Same thing with skin smoothing. If you smooth the skin too much with this slider, you could go to the detail slider, move it to the right, and it will bring some of the pores back. But I think it's fine the way it is. If the person is older like me, their skin might be a little discolored. They have little red marks or something there. And you could take this face skin color correction to the right. In this case, Courtney is evenly colored skin. We don't have to worry about that. Dark circles removers. She has a little bit of dark circles there. We can move this to the right. I'll move it around there. Again, you got to kind of wait for it to kick in. Move it a little more. And then you can see it kicks in. So there's before. And there's after, there's before. It kind of smooths those over. Now, I mentioned at the top when I first started editing this image that the lighting was kind of hard because it was so strongly backlit that she looked a little dull, a little too dark. So I could come in with the face brighten and brighten up her face. Now, in doing that, it's kind of bringing out kind of a shine in her face as well. So we can move this to the right as well to get rid of the shine. So far, so good. Now, I'll give you a before after again. There's before and there's after. Now, if I wanted to get rid of every tiny little blackhead or something, I could come in and move blemish removal further to the right. But that, I don't, it tends to look plasticky. That's just what happens with all these editing apps when you're editing skin. What you may prefer to do is go up and use this remove tool up here. You can see where I'm pointing in the top left. And you could come in with that remove tool. I'll just do it real quick. And you could either remove after each stroke or turn this off and then click on all of them and then click erase. I'm not going to remove them all because I typically wouldn't in real life, but you could click there, let's say, and get rid of this one and this one. like this one, like this one maybe, and this one here, let's say. All right, let's just say for the day, and then you click erase, and it will erase them. It also has a clone stamp tool if you prefer to use that. A lot of people might prefer to use the clone stamp tool. You can, but that's how you use that tool. So you could come in and get rid of anything that the sliders didn't get rid of. So let's go back to our portrait editing. Okay, I think the skin looks pretty good. Let's go down to the eyes. I'm going to close down skin. We'll open up eyes. And if you're familiar with Luminar Neo, again, this is pretty much the same controls that are in Neo here. So you could replace the iris if you want. She has pretty eyes, so I don't need really to, or don't feel the need to replace the iris. I will add some flare. I will add a little like kind of light at the bottom of her iris. And you can see there's a little bit of red here. This slider is a godsend. The hardest thing to remove in Photoshop is when the blood vessels in the white of their eye is showing. That is so difficult to remove and to make it look realistic. This slider is a godsend. And then you could whiten the whites of her eyes. And you can see how this is typical with Luminar product is when you move a slider for it to kick in, it's a little blurry at first, then it will kick in. That's just the way their software works, all their software. Eye enhancement, this will be the iris again. Move that to the right and you let it kick in. And you can see there. Okay, let's see where we are. There's before. And there's after. So far, so good. Now, let's close down eyes and let's go to mouth, teeth whitening, and teeth brightening. So what I do is I'll go right to teeth whitening, move that to the right. Teeth brightening, just a little bit. I don't want it to look ridiculous, like she has caps or anything like that. Just a little bit. Still, again, I kind of go for that natural look. I really don't like to change the way someone actually looks. I just want to get rid of transient things that come and go, like pimples and stuff like that. Now, makeup, if you want to apply makeup, you can apply some like rouge, I guess, to the cheek, different types of contour makeup for the face. I'm actually not going to go into this right now. I am going to do a video that's going to be dedicated to makeup. And as a matter of fact, I just want to mention very quickly, I'm going to do an entire course on Aperty. I hope to have it ready by like the same day Aperty is released. So if you're wondering, I don't know if I could handle Aperty, it might be too difficult for me. Hopefully I'll have it done the day it's released so that when it is released, you could go to my course and learn how to use it. And I'll have more information about that when it is available. So I'm not going to do much with makeup in this video, but I promise you I will do that soon. We'll go to body skin. And if she, her arms were showing, her legs were showing, that's where that would come in. Now you may be thinking that's it. Well, that isn't it. Because if you go here, this panel is reshape. This is where you could slim her face. Not something I ever do, actually. But I'm going to just do it just to give you an idea. You got to wait for it to kick in because, again, it's got to map her face. And when it does, then it's relatively quick. After it does, you can see it slimming her face. Once it does, and I'll give you a before after, you can see it still doing it. There it is. So there's before, there's after. There's before, there's after. I'll just leave that for now. Eyes, make her eyes a little bigger. Sometimes, this is something I did do. Often, depending on what focal length lens you use, sometimes it makes the eyes look a little smaller than they actually are. Just the way the distortion is. So sometimes I would just puff them. There's a puffer tool in Photoshop I would use to make their eyes just a little bigger. 10% is actually, it was worked by percentages, and I would put 10% in and make them just a little bigger. Well, you could do that with a single slider here. Now there's an eyebrow arch here. I'll let that kick in. You can see what that does. This is probably something I wouldn't use either. But again, maybe you are a photographer who does photos for an ad campaign, and you can see what that does. Position, distance. I'm not going to mess with any of those right now. But if you are, then these tools would come in handy. Maybe you do have a request from the person whose photo you took that, you want their eyebrows to be darker, to be up higher, something like that. You could do that. You want to make someone's nose a little smaller. You can move this bridge shape to the left. Again, you could let it kick in. Again, I am working with the beta version, so it's going to be a little slower than when it is released. But you could see there. So there's before. See how it slimmed her nose a little bit. And you could nose tip shape, X, Y. So you could push the nose left or right or up or down. I'm not going to do any of that in this video at the moment. Lip position, upper lip shape, lower lip shape. Not stuff I typically would do either. There is neural filters in Photoshop that do things like this, but it doesn't really do it well. But you could come in and mess with that if that's something you want. And obviously, this is upper body, but if you wanted to slim someone down or make them a little heavier, you would move this slider. If you want that to suck their tummy in, you would move this to the right. In this case here, I'm not doing any of that. Don't need to do it. But so far, so good. So there is before and there is after. So it's kind of cool. Now let's go to this panel. What's this panel? We click on it. It's creative. And this is where we could do some creative lighting to our model, or add some creative lighting to the model. Some studio light if you're in a studio up in here. But this is where I want to go, this part here, and I want to go to light customization. And I want to move the amount to the right. It's going to take a second to kick in. You can see down here. Okay, now you see this light I put in there. Don't really want that texture though. Let's go, you can see like shutters, tree shadow, greenery. Let's go to tree shadow because she is standing under a tree. Let's move the lighting. You can see the reflection in her iris is coming from the top left. So I want to move this way, like this maybe. So you see how you can move it around. We have strips or dots. Let's go with strips. Probably have it a little too bright. Maybe pull it down a little bit. And I think you do a scale and kind of zoom it in or out. Maybe something like that. That's pretty cool. So there again is before and after, before and after. So again, you could kind of get creative with the lighting. I kind of like it a little more subtle like that. It's kind of throwing some dappled light on her arm in the tree and a tiny bit on her face. I can make it brighter. You can see what just a little bit, I think, like that. That's kind of cool. And as you go through, you can see there's a lot more tools. Portrait bokeh. Now in this case, I think I shot this at f at 2.8. There's a little eye you could click here that I don't think is working in the beta version yet, but this would tell me the information about the image. But I think I'm almost sure I shot this f 2.8. So the bokeh's fine. I don't really need to worry about anything with the bokeh. What else we got down here? We have LUTs. So if you're into color grading your image with a LUT, you could do that here. You can see the different samples. You could add your own LUT. I sell LUTs on my website. If you own those already, you could load those into here by adding custom LUT file, and you would be able to then access those LUTs as well. So if you're into that, you could do that. Film grain, you want to add some film grain to the image. A vignette, I mentioned I do probably want to put a vignette on this. And I'm just going to put a darker vignette on it. It's going to take a second for that to kick in. I noticed when I was practicing with Aperty when it first came out, it kind of took a second. You could place the vignette center somewhere like there. You could see what we're doing here. Just a subtle vignette like that. And if you want to do a high key portrait, you have some tools for a high key portrait, which this isn't, and I'm not going to do anything with that. Now, if we look at some of the things I didn't use yet, if we go up here to the very top, you can see there's presets. There's none in the beta version. When this is released, there'll be some presets. You also create your own presets. So if you have an edit, type of portrait edit, you often do kind of a signature style. Maybe use a specific LUT, or you do something specific, to you. Create a preset, and then you'd be able to just apply that preset to any of your portrait images. This next one here is masking. So I could edit the people, the background separately, the sky separately, individually. Here, I don't need to do that. But again, I will be doing more videos on this on YouTube that you'll be able to watch, where I will be doing some masking, show you how to use that. Again, I'm going to come out with a full training where I'll cover all this in my full training. So that's masking. Has a crop tool, typical crop tool, so you could come in and crop the image. Over here on the top, just the magnifier, you click and you can zoom in and zoom out. You have, I mentioned this before, you have this eraser tool, which is actually a clone stamp or eraser. If you want to see all your different projects, click here. You could see I could create a new one, and here's my Courtney project. So we'll go back to our Courtney project, and you could create a new one right from here as well by clicking on that little plus sign there. So there is a sneak peek at Aperty. And again, I could go and click export here and export this. So again, I'll give you a before after. There's before and there's after. The only thing I probably wouldn't do if I was editing this, let's say this was for her graduation or something, I wouldn't slim her face. But other than that, I think that's pretty much how I would edit the image. I might have overdid it a little bit on the skin, might back that off a touch, but that gives you an idea what you can do with Aperty. And again, look forward to more videos from me. In the description below this video, I'll have a link to their website. I think I have a discount code too that will work if you're interested in taking advantage of their pre-sale of Aperty. I'll have that all listed in the description below this video. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.